debate right now is that the Department of Homeland Security is running out of funding to take care of all of these people who are coming across our southern border. And regardless of whether you are Republican or Democrat, conservative, liberal, whether you love the president, you hate the president, whoever you are in Congress, gosh, everyone's been talking about how there's a situation at the border that needs to be addressed. So why don't we just work together to get it fixed? And gosh, the politics of it all make you pull your hair out. And there's some people who they just hate the president so much they just refuse to work with him, even on this.
I know it's inexcusable, Congressman Zeldin. It really is. And in your view, was the president right to pull back on the plan to attack Iran and with military strikes, sir?
Right, yeah, absolutely. I will say this, regardless of whoever the president is, whenever a decision is being made that we should not go forward at that particular moment, I'd much rather you be more cautious than not. If something doesn't feel right, but taking one step further beyond a feeling, the law of war, which is something that the United States cares about. There are a lot of other countries that don't care about the law of war. Mm-hmm. Part of it is proportionality. There's Geneva Conventions and there's these international agreements. There are certain standards of how to engage in war. And we had an unmanned drone attacked, and the president was responsible in conducting a proportionality test, making a decision based off of recommendations made to him on the amount of casualties that would be caused on the other side. And my background is the Army, and in the Army you learn about the rule of fire supremacy. For every one bullet that's fired at you, you fire 3 back. If we were to have U.S. service members, U.S. personnel abroad, they were attacked by Iran.
Yeah.
That's something where we should be responding 9,000-fold. But there was an unmanned drone, so the president, beyond just what felt right at the moment, conducted an important law of war analysis.
And he was right to implement the sanctions yesterday. Yes.
100%. The economic pressure is crippling to this Iranian regime that at a few moments in the past have barely stayed in power. They're acting out. They're trying to appease their hardliners. And at the end of the day, if the millions of other Iranians won, the ones who want prosperity, stability, freedom, peace, if they're the ones that will end up ruling Iran, and that's an internal situation for them in that country. If they're successful in bringing their country in a better direction, that's better for them. It's better for the United States. It's better for the world.
Lee Zeldin with Piscopo in the morning at 9:35. Lee, we don't want to keep you too long. We appreciate you jumping on with your busy schedule. But I see a picture here. U.S. Army Captain Lee Zeldin. Look at this from Iraq in 2006. We're going to tweet that out. And are you going to be down at the White House for the that Medal of Honor, that whole ceremony with this? And you know David Belavia, correct?
I know of him well. I mean, I know multiple people who know David. I haven't had an opportunity to interact with him. Intimately familiar with his story. I'd love to be there if the opportunity allows it to be. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you go to try to. You don't go to combat to try to win. It's something that you earned. And for him, the consequences of his courage and his selflessness is something that should be impressionable for that 18, 19-year-old at boot camp right now. Trying to fit in those shoes. It's not just our greatest generation and all those generations past that sacrificed so much. That post 9/11 generation of people who only know life after 9/11 and the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, yet they're still signing up today. That's what's the coolest about it, is the inspiration that he's able to provide, because it's a heroic story.
And Congressman, you're a young guy, but you get it. Why are we having so many, the AOC arm of the Democratic Party going in, talking about concentration camps? They have no idea. It's like they don't even study any of the history. And I fear, and I was talking about this before we brought you on the air, Congressman, is that if you, little by little, these people are seeping into our United States government, and our country will be gone before we know it, sir.
Yeah, it's deeply unfortunate. And by the way, when the video was made that AOC started this entire thing with, she was referencing Never Again, referencing the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And yet, since that very moment, she's been trying to. I mean, she's made multiple statements. For one, blaming Liz Cheney for starting this all, which is not true. Being the first one to reference the Holocaust, it was actually a video of that AOC created this, entire back and forth over the course of last week. And then, and then she's claiming that she's never brought up the Holocaust. But listen, back in World War II, with these camps, pre-World War II, during World War II, I don't recall prisoners being able to request a voluntary departure and then go back home where they came from. In the United States, we have a process that if you enter into the country illegally, that we are going to have a rule of law. There has to be a process, and improvements have to be made to it. But for someone who's there in one of these detention centers at the moment, they just came across our border, if they want to request voluntary departure and go back home, that's an option.
Yeah.
But with these comparisons, the only thing that the Nazis and Hitler and the Holocaust should be compared to is not the Nazis, Hitler, and the Holocaust, and certainly not all these comparisons that the left loves to make between. They'll try to equate Republicans and Nazis. They'll try to equate Trump and Hitler, and it's absolutely disgusting when they do it, but they can't help themselves.
I know, and now she wants to go. They want to go after ICE and shut down ICE. And do you think the president, by the way, was right to delay these ICE roundups?
Well, I guess similar to the question earlier, there's the president needs to feel comfortable at that moment that the timing is right, that the decision is right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there were a ton of different factors going through his head. I will say we have an issue where people are given permission to leave into the United States and have to report back for a court date that could be years in advance, and almost none of them will report back for that court date. So you're giving people papers that they can go into the United States with, and they're able to hold on to these papers, and if they're asked to show they have this court date, the entire process is completely screwed up. But I'll tell you, there needs to be consequences for the people who do not report for those court dates.
It's so true.
And that's really the heart of what's inspiring the president with regards to this back and forth. On this question you're asking me about these enforcement actions, and we should be supporting our great ICE agents.
That's right.
They put themselves in harm's way. They kiss their spouses, their kids goodbye. They don't know what type of conflict they might be faced with each and every day, but they're ready for anything. They're well trained and they love our country, and we should be supporting them more.
Congressman Lee Zeldin, and also with the MS-13 problem, I know you're attacking that with Congressman Peter King. Had a great chat with him at dinner last week, and I know former Congressman Dan Donovan worked on that. And matter of fact, we have John Wigason, president of the Nassau County Detectives Association, on this MS-13 problem on Long Island of all places. And where, I wonder where that starts, Congressman, correct?
Yeah, it's these are transnational gangs. We have issues that ICE prioritizes, whether it's gang activity, murders, rapes, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, other forms of human trafficking. So, as far as the great work that our ICE agents do, we need to understand that they're prioritizing going after the worst of the worst of the worst, and we should be helping them with it. And some people in Congress support ICE with that effort. You mentioned some people where it's high on their radar to do the right thing every day on this, and then there are other people who they want to attack ICE. They call them names. Governor Cuomo's called them names. Some of these members of Congress have. They want to defund them.
Yeah.
And it's where's our country if we have no rule of law, if we were just allowing people to play by their own set of rules without consequences.
Lee Michael Zeldin, born on my son Joey's day, January 30th. Isn't that something? You share the birthday. And Congressman, we appreciate the hard work that you do. We appreciate you always taking time to, jump on the air with us, Lee. And God bless, Godspeed, sir. And please keep us posted if you would, Congressman.
You got it.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
for what you do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Congressman Lee Zeldin right there representing New York's 1st District on Long Island. Big Al standing by with the headline news.